right, everybody take a deep breath. We are back after a crazy weekend of not just college football, but the NFL as well. And we're in the midst of our 56 days straight of a mixture of NFL and college football. We got so much to go over and then obviously preview because this slate coming up, again, they've all been magical. They've all been fantastic. But the matchups in this one, at least from a pre-week standpoint, are so juicy. So we appreciate you guys joining us. We want to get to all that first. Hit that subscribe button. But what an amazing time. The Booster Club came together this weekend at the Booster Club tailgate for what ended up being the craziest
there they go right there
in a long time. You can see right there, it was an unbelievable turnout. Shout out to Sister Riggs, Ed, Steve, everybody involved. Guys, it's one thing to sit here and talk to you, through the chat, on the show, on the phones, but it's another thing to see you in person. And David, I don't think it could have gone any better.
Man, that's family right there. And being able to put faces with names was one of the most fun parts for me. And then how about that? You're at the most historic upset in the history of college football.
I kind of feel bad because a couple people were like, hey, should I go to this game? I was like, well, I don't know. I think Vandy could possibly cover. But just
Cody Nation called it.
Dude, he did.
He called it.
100%.
Pretty sure he got some of the field goal, too.
Well,
chipped off of the field
they're
goal.
auctioning it off.
Goalpost?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if it gets much better than that. Guys, it's not just a sports show. That's family right there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we appreciate everybody setting it up. We got a big show to get to, so let's get to it. Ohio State is heading to Oregon this weekend. We're going to break that down. Plus, we're going to preview the Red River shootout between Texas and Oklahoma and much more. And then Alabama safety Malachi Moore responds after losing his temper during the Tide's loss to Vanderbilt. I'm Jay Crain, and it is a loaded Monday here at Crain & Company. How can you not love college football after another insane weekend that once again leaves us to keep asking, is there actually an elite team in all of college football this year? The one team that sits at the top of the hill that we look at and point and say everybody else has to catch them. Well, some people will say Ohio State has to be considered the best team right now, and they may eventually be. But how do we know about them? Who have they beaten? We can't admonish Ole Miss's schedule on one hand and then disregard Ohio State's weak schedule as well. Other people will say it's obviously Texas. And again, that may come to fruition, but can Quinn Ewers stay healthy? Arch has a bright future, but they need Quinn to win the whole thing, and Michigan just dropped another game, this time to Washington, that leads me to believe this may be the biggest year of parity that we've had in quite some time in college football. It's very possible. But we finally get to see Ohio State, and really Oregon to a certain extent, play somebody worth their salt. We also get to see if Quinn comes back guns a-blazing in the Red River shootout against the Sooners. Then there's the always pissed off now Alabama, Tennessee, and Georgia teams. While Ole Miss didn't just lick their wounds, they feasted on South Carolina's. My point is we may actually have the most playoff spots we have ever had, mixed with the most teams that could win the whole thing we've ever seen. And that mix will only lead to more great matchups and close finishes. I, for one, am rooting for that because I want all of college football to be good. Former Michigan quarterback David Cohn, my brother, former Western State, Colorado wide receiver Blaine Crain. And David, you can make good arguments for Texas and Ohio State, I think. I think we know a little bit more about Texas. But when you look around the landscape, before we get in this Ohio State-Oregon game, the nuts and bolts, who right now, before these big games get played, is there somebody that you think is just that much better than anybody else, or is it?
Okay, that's the question. All right, I have the definition of elite pulled up here. It says a select group that is superior in terms of quality or ability. So to answer the question, are there still elite teams in college football? I'm going to answer yes. Elite, yes. Perfect, no. And all of the imperfections for these teams are manifesting themselves in different ways. Some on offense, some on defense, some have injuries. We've been talking about the Texas quarterback situation. But the matchups that we're getting each week, we get a little bit more information every single week, right? And when you look at the way a team grows throughout a season, that's what I'm really interested in seeing, because no championship team is the same in November as they started out in September, right? So these are the weeks that we get to find that out. So when you look at a game like the Buckeyes going on the road to Oregon, we've been talking about this game all summer, how this could be like a de facto Big Ten championship game, or maybe we'd get a rematch of that later in December. Well, the closer we get to this thing, the more interesting it gets, because like I said, neither team has been perfect. I think there are elite teams somewhere out here. They just have to like manifest what they're able to do. And the closer we get to this one with the Buckeyes and Oregon, I'm thinking I'm going to take the Buckeyes kind of big in this one, man.
Really? You're leaning that way. I want to dive deep into that game. It's going to be, but that's okay. I'm surprised.
Well, listen, I feel shocked.
Yeah, I feel shocked. Blaine, again, teams grow, and David's 100% right. But up to this point, we haven't seen a team with that deadly mixture of unbelievable personnel that are very well coached and know how to really play the game consistently, right? That super dominant team, that super alpha team. I think we got some teams with elite personnel out there, but to David's point, they just haven't built the monster yet. Is there a couple maybe that you see that you think have separated totally from the pack?
No, I don't.
A hodgepodge.
I don't know if there's a complete team right now in college football, and trust me, it's been a weird season. Watching Alabama and Georgia be this bad on defense is probably the biggest surprise to me right now. I think the team that you can trust the most is a defense that travels. And we don't know yet about that with Ohio State. They haven't played anybody. The most points they gave up this year, I believe, is 14 against Marshall, and that was unacceptable. I don't think there's a clear-cut team. If I had to pick, I would pick Texas, but that is with a healthy Quinn Ewers. I don't think you're going to get there with Arch, and I think Texas fans know that as well. And David, I'm kind of leaning your way too in this Ohio State-Oregon game. I think Oregon right now with the teams they have played, I think Ohio State's have impressed me more than Oregon has, especially from a line of scrimmage standpoint. Yeah. I think Ohio State was rough early against Akron. Trust me, I bet that game. But I think they're getting better and better and better, and I see more improvement out of Ohio State than I do in Oregon so far.
All right, I want to dive into that game. You guys know that 2:45 p.m. Central, the phone's going to open 1-855-236-3228. Give us a call if you donate, and it's on topic. It will get read. Please hit that subscribe button. All right, David, let's get into this thing. Because when I look at this matchup, starting with Oregon, right? They got off to a slow start, and it was kind of a little bit of everything, right? Like 1 week, the offensive line wasn't able to push around somebody they were supposed to push around. The next week, the defensive line didn't show up, and they're in a game that's closer than what it should have been. Now, we have seen them against Boise State. I'm not saying they haven't played anybody, right? Michigan State, we got a lot of respect for Jonathan Smith. We know they're not personnel to where they can be effective enough yet. But this Oregon team is one of those that I does think have the personnel to be able to at least stalemate this Ohio State team, which I'm not sold on the offensive line yet, or at least not as sold as some other people are. And I'm not 100% sold on Will Howard being able to make great decisions all the time and be the winning difference in a close game. So I think Oregon has the capability. Where I worry about Oregon is I watched them, and I think I know Will Stein was there under Bo Nix, right? And I know Dylan Gabriel and Bo Nix both played a lot of football. But it seems to me that Oregon gets too cute because they have Dylan Gabriel at times. If the run game is working, just pound the run game. Use Dylan Gabriel, right? He can keep plays alive. He can extend plays. You can sprint him out, and you can do all these things. But it seems like there's so much going on in the Oregon pass game that they kind of get flustered when other things aren't working, and we saw that a little bit against Michigan State. So I think Oregon can do it. I look at Ohio State, and I don't trust Will Howard, and I think he makes a couple key turnovers that they can't just out-personnel and out-talent this team like they did Iowa.
Okay, well, if you force me to take one of these two quarterbacks to build my team, obviously I'm going to take Dylan Gabriel. I've been a fan of his for a very long time. And then, so based on that premise, if you're saying, well, the rest of the rosters are still really, really good on both teams, then, you'd have to give the nod, and you throw on top of that Oregon is playing at home. I get that. But here's what I'm seeing right now. Both teams 5-0, so they've handled their business. In an era where we're seeing Alabama lose to Vanderbilt and we're seeing Ole Miss lose to Kentucky, just winning ugly games, same thing we said for Miami, handling your business puts you on top, right? But we've seen from both programs so far this year that they haven't looked great at times, even for successive quarters. I'm not talking about just a play here or there. There have been times where like, man, is this really the top three team that we thought they were going to be? I've said that same phrase for both teams at different points in the season. But if you told me that one of these teams is fraudulent then I would take Oregon over the Buckeyes right now.
So you think Oregon would?
Maybe they're just dead even. Maybe they're just dead even, and they're in this like Spider-Man gif pointing at each other, and it's a mirror, and we end up getting a close game, and that's how the rest of the season plays out. I just feel like as an entire team right now, I would trust the Buckeyes a little bit more. I'm thinking 31-21 type game right here, even on the road playing Oregon.
Well, it's you would think it would be tied. I think the under in this game is probably the one of the best plays. I don't know what it's at.
52.5.
It's at 52.5. Blaine, if it gets to the point, and I think it will in this game, because I know how good of a motivator Dan Lanning is, I think he's going to have both sides of the line of scrimmage ready to play, including an offensive line that I think can move the ball on the ground with Jordan James, and then you know what Tez Johnson can do in the slot. You got Evan Stewart as well, who can do some things. I'm not worried about Oregon's athletes, but if it's going to come down to which quarterback can make those big time plays over and over again, and at the end of the game, do you lean more Will Howard or Gabriel? And if that's the case, how can you go Ohio State here if you lean that?
I would lean more to Dylan Gabriel. I think everybody would, but I think the difference is, to me, is I do think Ohio State is better up front on both sides of the football. I think
how much better though?
I think better enough to make the easy things easy. I think it's going to be harder for Oregon to establish the line of scrimmage. I think it's going to be harder for Dylan Gabriel to turn around and get 4 to 5 yards. I think it's going to be easier for Ohio State when you have Henderson, when you have Quinshon Judkins, and the absolute electricness you have at receiver. If it comes down just to the quarterback, I'm going to lean Oregon because I think DG has done that before. But I like Ohio State's defense more from just an absolute personnel standpoint from your your starting 11. The only thing I do worry about when it comes to Ohio State, one, they haven't played anybody. The only common opponent right now, I believe, is Michigan State. Between both these teams, and I believe Ohio State won 38-7 and Oregon won 31-10. And you can dive into those numbers, but I just think there's a little bit more power, there's a little more electricity on the Ohio State side right now than I would think on Oregon. I mean, look at the receivers. I mean, we can talk about Ohio State every year with the receivers. It's not just 1 or 2. They got legit 4. They have a legit 2 running backs that can get it. If it comes down to the quarterback play, then yeah, you would lead Oregon, but I don't think it's going to come down to that. This is going to be a line of scrimmage football game. This is going to be a Big Ten line of scrimmage football game that Oregon is not used to yet, which I think there's a reason this game's 2.5, 3.5 points, but I think Ohio State is a more complete team to where they won't have to rely just on their quarterback to win this game.
Well, I disagree with you because one of the things we've sat here and said this whole time is Dan Lanning, and I think we've all echoed this, and I think this is what made the start from Oregon not being great on the line of scrimmage a little bit surprising to us, is that he's building an SEC-style team, right? The same reason we sit here and say, well, Utah, what they're doing translates, and why this works because they're physical up front. Dan Lanning is doing the same thing that Kyle Whittingham did at Utah, but he's doing it at Oregon, and I think he's got better athletes overall. So I think Oregon is ready to play this game up front. You look at the guys they got running around on that defensive line. They're not going to be smaller to the point where it's just a gravity thing against Ohio State and an overall talent thing. I think they're fast enough to keep this game not only close, but maybe even have a lead late. And I'm just telling you, I think Will Howard, Ohio State's turning the ball over way too much. Like, they're hitting a bunch of explosive plays, and they should, against the teams that they've played. But let's not act like they just looked like, you know, it was an amazing performance against Iowa this whole time.
Yeah, I mean, look, Oregon could definitely win the football game if that's the point we're making, especially when they're at home. But there's a difference between making a point to assemble an SEC roster and then like playing like an SEC team on the field. I mean, Oregon got outrushed by Boise State 221-109, and you're about to face Quinshon Judkins, who came from the SEC, and you're going to face Henderson. And like one thing with Will Howard is we hadn't even really talked about his ability to run the football too. The more that he's able to affect the game in the run game, the less he has to win the game through the air. So if Boise State's rushing for 221 against you, I just feel like the Buckeyes are going to come in and do every bit of that. And Maddox Madsen, that game still threw for 148.
Yeah, and I think I get we say that, but then I go back to the Ohio State game against Akron when I watched Akron punk them for 2.5 quarters up front on the offensive line. So I get it. I understand. It's just I think both these teams are going to be playing at a very high level in this game, right? So the way I'm viewing it is if one team plays poorly and the other team plays good, whoever plays poorly is going to get beat, and they're probably going to get beat pretty badly. But I think Oregon's going to put their best foot forward. I think Ohio State's going to put their best foot forward in this game. The question becomes, again, if all's a stalemate and it's all equal, Oregon at home with Dylan Gabriel is why I think that they're a good pick on the money line and plus 4.5.
Yeah.
When I got it,
I don't think anybody's sitting there saying that's a bad.
But schematically, if you're Ohio State, if you're Ryan Day, David, and you've watched, how it's kind of, gone down with Will Howard, and you've seen some good and you've seen some bad, and you want to get in a rhythm. I mean, are you just going to take a page out of Michigan's playbook early in this game against Oregon, just see if you can line up and run it with the quarterback, with Judkins, with Henderson, maybe some 22 personnel where you got both of them in the game with Will Howard before you start taking shots to Jeremiah Smith and Egbuka? Or are you just going to do the balancing act as usual?
Well, I would just see what they give me first. I'm looking for Jeremiah Smith anytime that I can, and Egbuka for that matter. And the game against Akron, it still ended up being 52-6.
Oh, they murdered him at the end of the day.
And they rushed for 170. And that's why I say, I've seen this movie so much before. Yeah. What did I tell you this weekend against Iowa? What did I say that it would be? I said it'd be 14-7. I was wrong. It was like 7-0. Yeah. And then they still win big at the end. I mean, I've seen this movie a bunch of times. So I don't know. In terms of what's the best strategy to come out and whether it's like run heavy or pass heavy, what's Oregon going to give you? What's Oregon going to give? Because they can only do so much. You can only double so many guys in the pass game, and you can only load up so much. I mean, you're talking about 22 personnel. Like, maybe you do put Travion Henderson and Judkins on the field at the same time. We saw Michigan do that a little bit.
That's what I get worried with this Ohio State team. One, Chip Kelly's a phenomenal coordinator. He's forgotten more football than I'll ever know. But I do feel like sometimes Chip Kelly gets too cute. And play calling. You go back to that Iowa game. Look, I get it. Will Howard can run, but you have two of the best backs in the country.
It's 4th and 1. Give
sitting back there. It's 4th and 1. You come out and empty, and you run it with Will Howard. You can't get cute in this football game. Oregon is too good of a football team to get cute. So I'm really interested on third down play calling, 4th down play calling, how Chip approaches this, and how the coordinator from Oregon approaches it.
Well, and because Will Stein, he's got a lot of good stuff. Their pass game, especially the short to intermediate, is really good. I brought up Tez Johnson and what he can do in the slot and the way they use him, and Jordan James coming on. And obviously, they got a guy that's basically a Travis Kelce clone at tight end. You watch him run around. He looks very similar to him, plays very similar. But on the other side, Blaine, if I'm Oregon going against this Ohio State defense, right? Push comes to shove, right? And again, you got to look at what personnel grouping's out there. Is it 11? Is it 12? Are they going heavy and you match that, whether you mug the safeties or bring in heavier personnel? But if everything's even, I've got to make Will Howard, right, beat me early.
Sure.
Even if I got to give a little bit of cushion on the outside
100%.
of Jeremiah Smith in them, but I've got to make Will Howard beat me through the air at some point.
If there's anything you can trust when it comes to this Oregon team and this Oregon game, they're going to make Will Howard beat them. And I'm not.
Well, what did Iowa do? We said what Iowa was going to do.
I'm not going to let these two other guys beat me. And he has the receivers to do that, obviously. But I am interested in how Oregon's going to approach this from an offensive standpoint. How many RPOs are you going to see this game from Oregon? How many deep shots early are you going to see from either of these teams? Because remember, this game is on the road at Oregon, so I wouldn't be surprised if Ohio State does take a deep shot. Because if I ever have number 4 one-on-one on the outside, buddy, that's a matchup that I like. I don't care who's on the other side. So it's going to be interesting. It's not only the players in this game, it's where it is. It's at Oregon. How is the plays being called in certain situations? And I go back to what I said earlier, as good as Ohio State has looked this year and they have rolled everybody, they do have some weaknesses on 3rd down, and that's what I'm interested to see how DG and the OC take advantage.
Yeah, well, we know how important 3rd down is. Just how's Alabama.
What about 4th down in this one?
True.
We talk about Dan Lanning every year on 4th down. Like, will this game end up coming down to the couple 4th downs that the coaches decide to go for or not go for?
I
wouldn't
like the
be
Washington
surprised.
game has for the past couple of years. I mean, probably. I just. And you talk about Heisman moments, and we say, is there an elite team in college football? Well, these next 3-4 weeks, and I mean throughout the rest of the season. But we got some matchups that are going to be huge data dumps, as they call them, for us to be able to figure it out. But somebody's got to be the responsible man on the road, whether it's Will Howard or Dylan Gabriel at home. But guys, speaking about responsible man, how can Clark Lee not be the responsible man of the week?
Damn right.
Brought to you by Responsible Man, a multivitamin that is packed with 33 key ingredients, gentlemen, that help support your immune system, sharpen your brain, and keep your heart and muscle strong so you can make great coaching decisions like Clark Lee, whose unranked Vanderbilt team, first ever win against an AP Top 5 team, beat number 1 ranked Alabama at home. Incredibly responsible and full of all the vitamins he needs. Plus, the vitamins don't have the bad smell to them. They're very nice and minty, and they're made right here in the USA. They're not brought over here on some foreign country I'm not smart enough to understand the name of. All right, there's no outsourcing, just good old American quality, like the kind of football that we love. And right now, you can take advantage of Responsible Man's fall sale and get 50% off your order, or just $19.99 for your first order. Just head over to responsibleman.com, use code BOOSTER at checkout, but hurry, Hurry those little legs or fingers up. This deal won't last long. Remember, a strong America needs strong men. And strong men start with responsibleman.com with code BOOSTER for 50% off. Get responsible, David. With a responsible man.
I am.
You are really responsible. Let's get to the chat.
All right, chat, hit that like, hit that subscribe button. If you donate, it's on topic. It will get read. We're going to start the day off with Tommy B. Tommy, what's up? Says, do you think there's a little extra hate with Chip Kelly coming back to Oregon?
I don't know if it's hate. It's these guys are all super competitive. I think it adds a little bit more, right? There's nothing. There's stunting and flexing, and then there's stunting and flexing on your ex. Like maybe it was an amicable breakup. Maybe y'all even send each other Facebook messages all the time. But when you drive by the house, you want to make sure that they see the Lambo's clean and somebody's having fun in the passenger seat. That's just the way I think human beings are.
Let's go to Max E. What's up, Max? He says, guys, Dan Lanning has not won a big game yet. Before I pick them, they're going to have to prove it to me.
I don't think that's a crazy thing to say. He hasn't. You could say something similar about Lane Kiffin, but what do we say, Coney? You always haven't until you have. People said the same thing about Kirby Smart. Again, there's narratives for all these coaches until they do it. It's like Danny O'Shea said that one time on Cherry Street.
Let's go to KC. What's up, man? Should bring up the red zone efficiencies for both Ohio State and Oregon. Field goals will not win you this football game.
Yeah, but what's interesting about it is both these offenses are so good at scoring even outside the red zone.
Yeah.
They're so explosive. I mean, it's nothing for Jeremiah Smith to take a touchdown 65 yards in Mbuka.
And two, Dylan Gabriel, at least against Michigan State, and I know, I've watched him have a ton of success when he was at Oklahoma in the red zone, finding ways to score. He's a sneaky runner. I think he's a heavier runner than what some people think. He's able to actually break tackles a little bit better than what people think. But against Michigan State, he made a couple of really bad decisions in the red zone. Like inside the 5-yard line. This is a game, playing Ohio State where, yes, Oregon is as close to the talent that Ohio State has that Ohio State's played, but they have to probably play a cleaner game, I think, overall than Ohio State, because as good as Oregon's roster is, I think we have to admit Ohio State's roster, at least right now, you think overall is better than
Well, they're executing better at least.
They are, but I think if there's, we said before the season, and Blaine, I think you agreed, Ohio State and Oregon were three of the probably top 5 rosters in the country, and we just waited to see these teams go up against somebody worth their salt. We're going to see.
It seems like Oregon will have to supplement their run game a little bit more than the Buckeyes will have to.
I think they will, but if you look at Will Stein's offense, that was one of the knocks on Bo Nix last year. It was his completion percentage 80%, but all he's doing is throwing the checkdowns or bubble screens or whatever. Look, it's a great way to supplement it, right? I wish Tennessee would have done it more than just trying to run for.
And I think a lot of it has to do with Ohio State hasn't had that scare game.
Yeah.
Right? And Oregon had that in Boise State. If you go back and watch that game without 2 special teams plays, Boise State should have won.
Well, guys, really, let's be honest about what Ohio State's done, including against Marshall. A lot of these starts have not been great. They've just let gravity take effect, and eventually you just out-athlete somebody enough where the dam breaks, and then there goes the waterfall with it. I don't think Oregon is going to do that. And if you come out and have a bad start against Oregon, and now you're having to play catch up, and maybe Chip Kelly's having to put a little bit more on Will Howard's plate through the air, that could spell doom for Ohio State. And you're not just going to walk your way in and out-talent your way to this.
Which I've been going back and forth because there's 2 ways to look at that. I keep watching the Buckeyes each week, and not each week, but especially those first couple, thinking, why are they starting so slow? Why aren't they just jumping out to early leads like I've seen them do before? But then on the flip side of that, they have huge second halves, which tell me that they're going in and making halftime adjustments, and that travels throughout a season.
It does.
That you have coaches like a Chip Kelly, who's not even your head coach, he's a coordinator who's able to go in and assess what's going wrong, so it leads you to have big second half. So it's a negative on one side, but a positive on the other.
All right, let's go to the new life. He says Oregon is a pass-happy team, but Ohio State is great against the pass. How do you think Oregon is going to approach this from an offensive standpoint?
Going back to what Cone was just talking about, supplementing the run game if it's not working early, I'm sure that Will and them, talking about Will Stein, the OC at Oregon, and Dylan, they're going to have 2 plays when he goes up to the line. You're probably going to see even more tempo right this week from Oregon, something that, guys, I don't know if you remember last week, we after the Bama-Georgia game talked about Georgia should maybe start going up tempo a little bit more. What they do against Auburn, first thing when they went out in the field, they started going up tempo. I thought that was funny and something we talked about a little bit on the recap. But I do think it gives Oregon an out. If you're saying that you think Ohio State is a more physical team than Oregon. I agree with you there. But this game is at home. I think Oregon's going to put their best foot forward, and Will Stein them. He's going to test the run early to see if he can work it. And the run isn't just lining up and running inside zone or gap scheme. You're going to see a lot of jet motion, right? Speed sweeps, being able to run horizontal and then stick you vertical. But all right, one more, we got to move.
All right, let's go to the fam. He says MSU is the only common opponent between the Buckeyes and Ducks so far. We hung with Oregon longer than we did Ohio State, thanks to our defense only. If the Buckeyes bring the defense like they should, I'm pretty sure they will win.
I think it's going to be tight, but I do think that the defense is still the best part of Ohio State's team, David. That's what I think.
All right, we're ready to move on?
Let's do it.
All right, let's go Red River shootout here. Oklahoma 4-1, Texas 5-0. Steve Sarkisian said he feels good about Quinn Ewers' availability to start this football game.
All right, here we go. Quinn's going to play. You have to assume, obviously, they've been kind of resting him. Not that they wanted him to sit out, but this was a very convenient part of the schedule for Quinn Ewers to maybe take a couple weeks and then have a bye week added on top of that. I don't think there should have been any fan base that is more excited about what they saw last weekend than Texas is. Probably you could say Ohio State's, but I still think we know more about Texas when they're fully healthy. Here's why this game would scare me if I'm a Texas fan. Oklahoma was able to sneak that win out against Auburn, but the expectations outside of the fan base, I know Oklahoma fans are going to have high expectations regardless, and they should, this is Texas's year, right? And Oklahoma, y'all are going to be fine in the long run, but this is Texas's year to come to the SEC and possibly win it and then make the college football playoff. So really, in reality, especially after Brent Venables beat them last year, Oklahoma's kind of playing with a little bit of more house money here. I think they're going to play a little bit more free. I think this is Danny Stutzman's last time to take a shot at these guys, and I think the Hawkins Jr. kid's got some moxie to him at quarterback that can keep them around in this game. The question becomes, will you be able to score enough for the couple times where Texas is going to hit you because Steve Sarkisian is their coach and they still have weapons on the outside that can hurt you and the running backs are a little bit further along? It will be a line of scrimmage game because it is always a line of scrimmage game. But, David, when I look at this Texas team playing Oklahoma and I see that 14 and a half point spread, it makes me like Oklahoma more and more. But how, if you are Oklahoma, are you going to be able to find balance offensively against the Texas defense that, in my opinion, is top 5 in the country?
Okay, I'm approaching this one a little bit differently. Almost everything you're saying is how I felt about this game last year. Okay, which is why when we did our pick'em at the very end, I decided to take Oklahoma, which ended up being the right pick. Talk about Dylan Gabriel. That was one of his best game-winning drives late in the game in Red River Shootout last year. Couple things to keep in mind. Remember, this is always a neutral site game. So this is going to be in Dallas. No one's going to have home field advantage, even though it will be in the state of Texas. The 14 right now, it feels right to me. And I mean, Quinn Ewers, obviously, we can ask the same question that we asked about Lenore Sellers a week ago. Is he coming back at 95%? Is he coming back at 75%? Because obviously that's a big difference. I just feel like this Texas team is so focused right now. And a part of it is what I said to you guys when Steve Sarkisian was on the field after they blew Michigan out, the first time they ever went to the big house in Ann Arbor, it was almost like he didn't even smile. It was almost like in his press conference after, like that was just another stepping stone on what we're really trying to accomplish. And I think there's several things that feed into that. The loss to Washington last year in the college football playoff, not accomplishing their goals when they had a really good team and roster last year. I think this team is really focused. Obviously, I want to check and see what the status of Quinn Ewers is before the game, but I like Texas, and I like Texas big in this one.
Nothing would shock me, and Blaine, to get kind of to piggyback a little bit off what David was saying, if Oklahoma didn't win last year and maybe Texas had routed them last year, I think there could be a chance for Oklahoma not to sneak up on them because it's a rivalry game, but kind of feel that magic in the air. But let's not pretend like Texas doesn't remember what happened the season before. They're going to have this one circled just like they have winning a conference championship circled, just like they have winning a national championship circled, and that's what they think this team can do.
Well, I look at it like this. If you go back to last year's game, what's one crazy stat that you can bring up? What hurts defenses like this, especially Texas?
A running quarterback.
Dylan Gabriel had 115 yards rushing last year. Last time they played. DG's not going to be out there. We obviously know he's a quarterback at Oregon. But this Hawkins kid can do anything. He can run the damn football, and he's a game or two. Do I think Texas is going to win this football game? I do. I think they're a better team. I think Quinn Ewers, if starting, which we all know he is and can stay healthy, he still threw for 350, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. But I think this rivalry is built into where Oklahoma will keep it close.
Yeah.
Right? This doesn't feel like a 14-point game to me. It feels like a 10-point game to me, maybe a late field goal. I don't know if this rivalry will let Texas just beat up on Oklahoma with the seniors they're bringing back on defense with Stutzman. There's going to be some growing pains at quarterback. We know that. But I do think the defense for Oklahoma will keep them in this football.
And the matchup of Steve Sarkisian's offensive mind versus Brent Venables' defensive mind is just, you're not going to get anything better than that, really. And these two guys know each other, have a good idea of what they want to do. Watch for the running back on wheel routes. We talked about that for Alabama, Georgia. But I do want to say this about Dillon Gabriel. I think one of the reasons, and going back and remembering that game last year, that Dillon Gabriel was so effective running the ball is because he was so deadly throwing it. Right? I feel like at this point in time that Texas was way more worried about Dillon Gabriel beating them with his arm than they were with his legs, and it ended up costing them at the end, including in overtime, I believe, or at the end of the game, where Dillon Gabriel led that long drive. Do you think Hawkins is far enough along as a passer to make Texas say, you know what? We don't have to really play you even. We can maybe put an extra spy, maybe do a little bit about what Georgia did to Jalen Milroe in Alabama, as opposed to, oh no, Dillon Gabriel can give us the slow death or the quick death. Let's make him give us the slow death. Are you worried about that?
I think you could look at it, either way.
How healthy is Oklahoma?
Yeah, I think only Hawkins be able to run the ball is going to help him in the pass game because it's going to give you what? It's going to give you one-on-one matchups. And I think Oklahoma's receivers are good enough to win one-on-one matchups. You're going to have to
healthy.
Yeah, if they're healthy, obviously. But you're going to have to respect Oklahoma in the run game, especially from the quarterback, and that makes you do what? It makes you add an extra hat to the box. Is he an elite thrower? No, I don't think he is. But I think certain situations and circumstances dictates how good you'll be able to throw the ball. And as a quarterback standpoint, I'm sure David can agree with this, I would so much rather have man coverage one-on-one with the athletes I have to help me be able to throw the football.
Now, what happens if Quinn Ewers, let's just say he doesn't play in the game at all, or he comes in for a drive and things just aren't looking, good. He's still too banged up to go for the full game, and Arch Manning has to come back in. How does that change the entire dynamic of this game?
Well, if you're Steve Sarkisian, you can say that nothing changes all you want, but you're going to know in the back of your head that who's in there in the situation, regardless of what his last name is. He's still a young player in a very vulnerable situation that if you're vulnerable, Venables is going to take advantage of it and try and confuse you. But this is why, again, you've given Arch is taking real life work, right? Real life snaps. He's now, the competition wasn't great, but Mississippi State put some game pressure on him. But it's not close to what it's going to be like against this Oklahoma team, this Oklahoma defense led by Danny Stutzman and some guys that have played a lot of football and understand the level of player mentally that they're going up against compared to a guy like Quinn Ewers that has a ton of experience. But we talk about the importance of starts, guys, and getting off to a good start. If Oklahoma gets off to a good start in this game and Texas lets them hang around in that first half, with that Hawkins kid, he's got some witch in him, I could tell.
He's a gamer.
He's a gamer.
And here's another thing going for Oklahoma on that point right there is when you really look at the opponents that Texas has played so far, there are still a lot of unknowns. We didn't, especially for Texas on defense, because I didn't get to see a lot of what they were capable of doing because of Michigan's offense was so inept. They played Mississippi State. They played UTSA, Colorado State. They haven't really been challenged. I think Oklahoma can at least come in and say, okay, yeah, y'all have better skill position players than us in a couple areas, but this is still one of the greatest rivalries in the country. Let's really get down and dirty and see if y'all can really finish a game strong after you've really played something.
Yeah. To your point, Oklahoma is pretty battle tested too. Say what you want, but that game against Tennessee, you saw. I know Tennessee lost to Arkansas, but it's not like there were bad players running around. You gave yourself a chance in that game at home. Went on the road and were able to come back and beat Auburn. So this team's been through different scenarios with Hawkins Jr. there, and we'll see how healthy the wide receivers are. I think you obviously want everybody at full go as much as they possibly could be, but if you don't have Andrell and you don't have Nick and those guys and Dion, I just don't see how for 4 quarters you can be that much better than Texas and be able to win the game. But speaking about winning and being better, all right, when you think about businesses that are crushing it, right? Brands like Aloe, Allbirds, or Skims. You might think, hey, great products, cool branding, and brilliant marketing, but there's an overlooked secret, Blaine. The business behind the business that makes selling for shoppers and buying very simple. And for millions of businesses like ours, that secret weapon is Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify. That's why they're home. to the #1 ranked checkout on this planet. Our marketing team uses it. It makes everything so much easier. I get people asking me all the time, hey, I want to start a podcast. There's 95,000 different things I have to do to try and get this thing going so I could possibly make money. Well, the first call you need to make is to Shopify. So if you're ready to take your business to the next level, upgrade your business and get the same checkout we use with Shopify. And when you hear this noise, play that, David. You made another sale, but you won't make a sale if you don't sign up for your $1 per month trial period at Shopify.com/CRAIN. That's all lowercase. Go to Shopify.com/CRAIN to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/Crain. David, hit that button one more again.
Okay.
That's right. We rich, y'all. All right, phone lines open up in 10 minutes. 1-855-236-3228. Got to get to one more game here, David, quickly. But first, the chat, even quicker.
All right, a couple things here. Let's go to Steve to the O. He says, a Georgia fan in me wants Texas to win big to bloat their egos next week. That brings me to BE. He says, is this a weird trap game for Texas with the Bulldogs coming in the week after?
I feel like the second one's a shot. I feel like the second one's a troll.
Could this be a trap
game? Yeah, this game, the Red River Shootout. Notice that's what we call it. That's what I call it here. That's not a trap game. That's
especially
a legacy
since they lost
game.
Last year.
Yeah, no, that's a legacy game.
Both of them put their bye weeks before this game.
Yeah,
that's the point that's needed right there.
There's no trapping anyone in here.
Let's go to S. Beard. He says, none of them bringing up Texas losing the turnover battle 0-3 last year. Wasn't just that DG last-minute drive. Texas kind of threw it.
I mean, you turn the ball over, but I think you got to give Venables and that defense credit for that as well. Look, this game, this is a beautiful thing about rivalry games, and I don't know if you've watched college football yet this year. Anything can happen. Literally anything can happen, and you know what? That makes it even better. All right, let's go to another one.
All right, let's go to DD. DD, what's up, brother? He says, guys, how much would you trust Arch Manning to come in if Quinn goes out? Is he good enough to go and win this football game?
I think so. I mean, you look at the experience that he has. It's not that much less than what Hawkins Jr. has at Oklahoma, if you really look at it. So I would trust him about as much as any backup in the country. When you get put in that situation, it sucks, regardless, unless you're UNLV, and then you realize, hey, this should have been the guy the whole time. But, I mean, what other backup quarterbacks in the country would you trust more right now?
Yeah, I think he could come in and win the game. I don't believe Steve Sarkisian when he says that the playbook and the play calling is exactly the same. I don't think you make exactly the same calls, right? I think you lean on other guys a little bit more in a game like this if Arch Manning's having to come in.
Without a doubt.
Let's go to Sonny B. He says, if Oklahoma gets blown out in this game, will Venables be in trouble?
No, I don't think so. You won 10 games last year. I don't think so at all. You found your guy. I think he's a perfect fit for Oklahoma. He's going to continue to get that personnel even better. And I know the Jackson Arnold thing is unfortunate, but we'll see how it goes with the backup. But not at all, I think Venables is close. All
right, let's go to Trench and C. What's up, man? He says, how much do you trust the Texas secondary? Cost them in last year's game. They have looked good this year, but not great.
I trust him for a couple reasons. I think your front seven's pretty damn good, and that it's a lot easier to hide. You know, and it's a lot easier to hide maybe a weakness at secondary with what you have near the line of scrimmage. But doesn't it feel like that's the same thing we've said about a lot of teams who were questioned at the top? Like you look at Tennessee, questioned their secondary a little bit. The front seven ended up helping bring them along. They're pretty good. Miami, right? We said, well, that secondary, that's the question. They still haven't got out of man coverage, and even with Ruben Bain back, they were getting toasted, so we worry about that. It just feels like every team we have to bring up to secondary because that's the biggest question for some of these teams at the top, including Texas. So, yeah, it worries me, but Dylan Gabriel is not showing up to throw the ball against Texas this year. That's why I think maybe it can be a little bit more understated and you can get away with it because Michael Hawkins is not the same passer that Dylan Gabriel is.
All right, let's go to Corey K. Corey, what's up, man? He says, how do you approach with the new Hawkins kid at quarterback against this defense? Do you take a lot of risk or do you play conservative in this game?
For Oklahoma on defense?
For Oklahoma, I think Oklahoma on offense. He's saying with Hawkins Jr., how are you going to take shots? You're going to be risky?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, David, I obviously want your answer here, but if it's to me, I think, what do we mean by risky? Like throwing it a lot, saying, you know what? If they're going to play to stop you as a runner, all right, we're going to work a lot of play action stuff. We're going to move you kind of like what Vanderbilt did with Pavia a little bit against Alabama, move the pocket a lot, create advantageous situations on pick plays on maybe 2nd and 4 where you think we were going to run it. maybe do more formation in the boundary to try and be able to slip a guy back to the field? Or, I mean, are you saying, if it was me, I would say, all right, we are going to play to your strengths. You're going to get more quarterback run in this game than we've called maybe all year.
I think that's the answer. There may be a temptation from Oklahoma, if they identify Texas's secondary as a weakness, to take a bunch of shots. And look, throughout the game, they're going to throw the football downfield at some point. I just don't think that's the right answer. Why? Because I just watched Vanderbilt hold the football for 42 minutes against Alabama and beat them. I just watched Arkansas hold the football for 35-plus minutes against Tennessee and beat them. What's the key in those games? You have the football and the other team does not. Even in some situations where Arkansas wasn't scoring touchdowns, they were kicking field goals. You had the ball minute after minute, and the other offense, that high-flying offenses, are on the sideline. Well, that's another key here. How can Oklahoma and the quarterback run game hold on to the football and give yourself a chance late?
It's going to be fascinating to watch. We're going to keep breaking it down as the week goes on. David, let's move on to another big game before we get into rapid fire and get to calls in the chat. LSU and Ole Miss.
Top 15 matchup in Baton Rouge. LSU 4-1 coming off of a bye. Ole Miss 5-1 now coming off of a drumming against South Carolina. They bounced back nice. The line right now is -2.5 Ole Miss on the road and 64.5 on the over and under.
I tell you, this is one of the most fascinating games of the season to me because obviously Lane Kiffin and Brian Kelly and Ole Miss and LSU. Ole Miss already with a conference loss. LSU, only lost one game, and that was to start off the year to USC in a game that a lot of LSU fans thought they should win. But when you look at the Jackson Dart and the Nussmeier matchup, who do you trust the most to not turn the ball over in key situations? From what I've seen Nussmeier, I like a lot of it, the anticipatory throws, right? I still feel like he's in a system that doesn't fit him perfectly, but I trust Jackson Dart more, especially after last week, because I think, David, last week, we were questioning with Ole Miss, what type of culture do they have in the locker room? Because we look at a team like Florida State and the wheels have just come off. You made a bunch of mercenary hires in the transfer portal. It started out bad and it just kept going downhill. Would Ole Miss suffer the same fate? Because there's a lot of similarities in how those rosters were built through the transfer portal. I think Ole Miss answered a big culture question on the road at South Carolina. Not just a win, but a dominant physical win. Not we won 52-49 because Jackson Dart made a play with his eyes closed at the end. No, they showed up and just whipped y'all's ass up there and made it seem like, hey, that was not us. We did not put our best foot forward against Kentucky, just like Kentucky didn't put their best foot forward versus South Carolina, then went on to beat Ole Miss. So I think this told you a lot about the maturity of this team. I think this may be the pivotal point in Ole Miss's season where they said, you know what, this is where we transform into what we're going to be able to win some of these games we have to win. Sometimes a scare is needed. Sometimes walking through the darkness helps you see the light, and I don't trust Nussmeier against the blitz, and I think Goldham's going to heat him up like pizza rolls in an oven at a fat kid's sleepover.
That's pretty hot. That's getting heated up.
Pizza rolls in the oven are elite.
They really
better in the microwave, to be honest.
In the air fryer.
I'm kind of torn on this game. I'm not ready to pick a winner this early in the week. I don't think it can be overstated the way that Ole Miss bounced back in Columbia, South Carolina. I really don't. To just show the country, hey, our loss against Kentucky was an anomaly, not the creation of a pattern that you're going to see throughout the year. I do think Ole Miss is a better football team. I trust their quarterback more, like you were saying. At the same time, they will be on the road, and more than just being on the road and LSU having home field advantage in Death Valley, one of the toughest places to play. More than just that, like Brian Kelly historically following a bye week has been really good, and he's been really good since he's been at LSU. That's why I'm a little bit torn on this one. I mean, where are you going right now? And also, you like the under in this.
I do like the under.
Well, can I give Blaine credit just for 1 second?
Absolutely, Jake. Please take your time.
Because he always says I never give him credit. So you want to talk about your team being a reflection of your head coach. 2 weeks ago, Lane Kiffin on a Wednesday press conference, Tuesday press conference, is playing Kentucky that week at home, game they're favored by double digits in, says something about Hugh Freeze and trying to steal his coaches or something about Auburn, which makes it seem like, hey, maybe he's not focused on the main thing. And I said, you know what, that's just Lane being Lane. I'm sure his team's not that worried about it. Well, his team played like a distracted and unprepared team against Kentucky and lost the game. Fast forward to the next week, Lane Kiffin goes radio silent. Not on social media, nothing at all. And his team showed up and looked like a prepared, hungry team that was dialed in because they realized they needed to be more dialed in. You talk about the coach setting the tone for how the team plays. If you follow the correlations, you were spot on. And if I'm Lane Kiffin, I may not put anything on X the whole rest of the year, but there's no way he can go that long with it.
Yeah, 2 things, Coach Kiffin. Really appreciate you watching the show and getting on. And I've always said there's nothing more scary than a locked-in Lane Kiffin. If Lane can really get locked in, man, he can do a lot of damage in this sport, and I think you saw locked-in Lane Kiffin this week. I don't know how you've seen this season and don't think Ole Miss is a better football team. And it's not because of the quarterback. It's not because of the receivers. It's because of the defense. Ole Miss defense, you can say what you want. Last week against South Carolina, what did they do? They showed up.
I thought they showed up.
Even the loss in Kentucky, they showed up. And we're not used to talking about this with the Ole Miss football team. You go back and look at the scores against LSU, 55-49, 49-37. I don't think you're going to see that in this game. I think both offenses are good. But if there's anything I trust in this game, which is great, which I never thought I'd be sitting on a national sports show and saying, is I trust Ole Miss's defensive line more than I trust LSU.
I know.
I trust Ole Miss's front seven more than I trust LSU's. LSU's going to be able to put points up. We know that with the athletes they have a receiver. Hell, I'm watching 2 LSU receivers probably be the best in the National Football League, and Bryce Thomas Jr.'s and Malik Neighbors, who are absolute dogs. But sooner or later, defense is going to have to win you one of these football games, and I like Ole Miss's defense, especially from the line of scrimmage standpoint. And we've said this about a Brian Kelly coach team. You know, what's the play calling going to look like? Are they going to push the ball down the field? Are they not going to be afraid to take a chance? Because you're not going to be able to nickel and dime your way against a win against Ole Miss.
Yeah.
You're going to have to put your players, Kyron Lacey, these guys, in the best positions to win. So that's the interesting fact to me. I do think the under is the best play here. It's already getting bet down. It started at 65.5. Some books have it at 64, and they're now getting down to 63. I think this is going to be a little bit lower scoring game than we're used to.
David, Brian Kelly, people talk about, he can't win the biggest game. Lane Kiffin, he can't win the big game. Somebody's got to win this one.
Yeah.
Who do you trust more? Do you trust Nussmeier more? Or do you trust Jackson Dart more on the road at LSU?
Okay, so to answer the quarterback question, probably Jackson Dart. To answer the coaching question, maybe Brian Kelly. Does this feel like one of those ones a couple years ago when Alabama came into Baton Rouge and Brian Kelly figures out a way to beat Bama in his very first year there? It kind of feels like that one. Like I said, I'm not ready to predict a winner right now. I do think Ole Miss is a better football team. The way they bounced back against South Carolina was very impressive. Answered a lot of questions that a lot of us had. But that's even more reason now. Coming off of a bye and it's in Baton Rouge, does this feel like one of those ones that Brian Kelly just doubles down on, and all of a sudden you look up, they win on a 2-point conversion at the end?
And I'm just going to be interested. We go back to that USC game, the 4th down calls. There will be some 4th down going forward.
I just can't get out of my head Moscona coming on our show before the season. And if you don't know Matt Moscona, he's very involved at LSU. And saying, I went out to practice and I watched him when they would pressure him, he would just throw the ball up and put it in bad situations. In a game that's decided by 3 to 5 plays, like I think this one's going to, regardless of how the start goes, I know they're going to heat this man up to see if he'll do it. And he's put the ball in harm's way a lot. And I don't know, just instinctually, just like last week, I was feeling Ole Miss was gonna win the game at South Carolina. Like just with your instincts, I just think I struggle to trust Nuss as much.
Yeah, and the way he does it too, he fades away, right?
Yeah,
fades
that's
away,
the problem.
That takes velocity.
And then LSU tackling in the open field,
which is huge.
Jackson's going to throw hitch.
I do want to make sure to make this point, guys, and you need to take it as serious as possible. The bye week for LSU is huge from a health standpoint. To go play on the road back-to-back weeks in the SEC, if there's anything going for LSU, that is just giant.
All right, before we get to the phone lines, David, let's go to some rapid fire real quick.
All right, first off, let's talk about Malachi Moore. Had a lot of passions going when Alabama lost to Vanderbilt, short-circuited a little bit. There's a couple different videos. One, he won't come off the field when coaches are telling him to. Two, I think we all saw him kick the ball at the end of the game and get that penalty. Can we bring those videos up?
Yes, right here.
I mean, and this is a captain of your team. You know, I wanted to get your guys' opinion on this because you want a captain of the team to be passionate. You want him to care and to be embarrassed with a loss like this. At the same time, when you're not listening to your coach and you're defying him on national TV, on the football field. Some sort of action has to be taken. Obviously, Nick Saban's not there anymore. There's a new man in charge. It's Kalen DeBoer. What sort of action will we see taken against Malachi Moore this week, if any?
Well, first off, I do talking about the action by the player. I want you to hate losing more than you love winning. Mm-hmm. I've got no problem with that. I applaud that. I've got no problem with you saying something, hey, after the game, getting everybody up, this can't happen again, this, that, and the other. There's one thing about being upset and being a leader and let guys know, hey, this is not acceptable here at Alabama. But you took it to a point where you made it about yourself. You made it about, hey, look at me. Look at all the power I have. I don't have to come out when you say that because I'm too important. Oh, I can kick the ball and embarrass all of us because I'm too important. If he would have just said something and maybe he got a 15-yard penalty saying something to his teammates like this is MF and unacceptable, whatever, I'm actually fine with that. But the fact you look at me and say, no, I'm not coming out, at that point you made it about yourself and then you made yourself look very, very small in that moment when the truth is that's when they need you the most to be that leader. It's easy to be excited and tell everybody to do good when all you're doing is winning, when it's all going good. But when you feel embarrassed or you feel like you let people down, that's when your ability to control yourself really shines to the forefront. So he put out an apology.
Yeah.
I don't think this is truly, in his character. But as far as being a leader, there's a difference between letting everybody know this isn't acceptable and making it about yourself, and I feel like he made it about himself.
So, Blaine, part of that apology is he came out and he posted, I want to apologize to my teammates, our coaches, the fans, our alumni, and my family for the way I acted on Saturday. I was completely out of line. I let the emotions of the game get the best of me and put myself before the team. Really solid apology, all the things you're supposed to say. But moving forward this week, what do you think the punishment will be for him, if any, and what should it be?
I don't think you suspend him. I think it's going to be in-house. I think you need to have a come-to-Jesus meeting with this guy because there's a reason you got that C on your chest, right? That should mean something. When it came to Nick Saban, and look, we've seen guys, flare up on the sidelines, but there's a little bit of that fear of God, right? When it came to Nick Saban of pissing him off, that respect level that you hit a certain line, buddy, you better not go bigger and further than that because it's more than just you. I didn't see any fear. Yeah. All right. I didn't see any respect when it came to not only did you make yourself look small, but you made your defensive coordinator look small. You made your head coach look small. And coming off one of the biggest wins of Kalen DeBoer's career to lose this game against Vandy, and your previous head coach was the greatest coach of all time in Nick Saban. If there's anything, there's not a level of fear in this. And that's what worries me. Because from a player to coach standpoint, respect is one thing, but there should be a level of fear that this we should never get the coach to this level. And I don't care who you are, Malachi Moore, Julio Jones, Tua, Bryce Young, you're not bigger than the football team. You're not bigger than Alabama. So this is a red flag to me and very worrisome to the future if players are getting away with it.
I agree with that. I'm sure there were a lot of former Alabama players that played under Nick Saban that reached out to him and let him know how that's not the way it goes down here. But to blame this one red flag, obviously losing to Vanderbilt, you lost all the equity if you're Kalen DeBoer that you built up in that Georgia win. Because now, and I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, what do you have to do now to make up for that? Like
win the SEC would be a good start.
I'm like, all right, you better win the SEC. Like you better win something. Like you can't just win the West anymore either and say that. But if you'd have lost to South Carolina, that's one thing. You lost to Vanderbilt, dog. Y'all were number one.
Well, and what happens if Vanderbilt actually ends up being fairly good this year? Like, what happens if they beat another 3 or 4 teams in the SEC?
They might, but
because I think
people need to realize Vanderbilt's a good football.
No, they are. They are. But it's optics. It's perception.
Well, adjacent to this story and kind of what we're talking about here, the SEC has fined Vanderbilt $100,000 for storming the field after that win over Alabama, fined Arkansas $250,000 after their win over Tennessee for multiple offenses. And a couple things I found interesting here. One, Vanderbilt is already auctioning off items on the internet.
Yep.
So pylons and pieces of the goalpost, which, go ahead and play this video of the goalpost coming down and getting thrown in the Cumberland River. I think it's awesome. But then also the last 8 teams to beat Alabama in true road games have all stormed the field.
That's one of
going
the
back a decade
that you can give.
The last
Here's
8
my
road
thoughts.
games.
You're pretty good.
Finding Arkansas. I know Arkansas hasn't been great in a while, but they've had some chances to storm the field here recently. Find them. You find Arkansas money. But don't you feel like finding Vanderbilt for storming the field after beating number 1 Alabama at home? Don't you think sometimes the police officer should say, hey, man, look, I've never pulled you over for speeding. I see you take this road every day. You were going 15 miles per hour over the speed limit. Here's a warning. Don't do it again, and have a nice day. Don't you feel like the SEC?
But why are you going to take away one of the things that separates you and makes you better than the NFL? Why are you going to take that away and punish people for it? The NFL could never.
What's $100K anymore?
Well, at Vanderbilt, but what I'm saying is, don't you think, like, if everybody, I mean, man, do they have speed? They give money to charity. Is
that why they're selling the pylons?
Choir at church. They're not out here causing any problems. They wanted to storm the field. There were 17 of them.
I want to know what other.
There were 17 of them.
There were 17 booster club members.
What were the other penalties that Arkansas got to make it $250K?
I don't know.
Like, what did you do to get that under extra
Somebody pulled their pants down.
Like, it has to be something. I don't know. Look, man, this is great. Great for Vandy. Great for Arkansas. If anything, I think Vanderbilt should have got paid $100,000.
Yeah, that's actually true. But I'm sure a lot of people consumed a lot of adult beverages after that, and I hope they drank their Z-Biotics before. What is Z-Biotic? Well, in case you didn't know, it's a pre-alcohol probiotic drink. It's the world's first genetically engineered probiotic because shockingly, right, that bad feeling you have the next day, maybe after drinking, you know what I'm talking about? Well, it's not dehydration. That's a trick. It's a byproduct. And Z-Biotics knows how to attack this byproduct. And it's literally not even a fair fight. So you just drink it before you go drink, and you don't feel as bad the next day. And we all use it.
It's the truth, guys. I'm telling you right now, I drank this every day.
It's amazing.
When I was at Floribama and felt like $1 million the next day. They can fix Floribama. They can fix anything.
It's straight out of Hogwarts, I promise you. We kept hearing about it, wonder what it was actually like. And now that we've tried it, we get why everyone was talking about it. Z-Biotics is continuing to invent probiotics that will help with everyday challenges of modern living. So if you go to zbiotics.com/booster, all right, you can learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use code BOOSTER at checkout. Z-Biotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. But you're going to love it, so you won't need any refund. So go to zbiotics.com/booster and use the code BOOSTER at checkout for 15% off 100% of a good time. Z-Biotics. All right, let's get to the phones, David.
You know what? It wouldn't sit right with me on this Monday for us to take call-ins and not start with Matthew in Arkansas.
We got to.
After that win. Matthew, what's going on?
What is up, y'all? It is the Heartbroken Hog here, and I need somebody to turn up that damn jukebox.
Dude, hey, I'm so pumped for you guys. We see you at the Booster Club tailgate. Then we're talking about the Alabama-Vanderbilt game. And then obviously the Tennessee-Arkansas game. Just what is this like for Arkansas? Is Sam Pittman 100% safe now, regardless the rest of the way out this year?
I mean, yeah, he's safe. I mean, we're going to a bowl at this point because we got Mississippi State and La Tech left. I mean, but I think 8-4 is on the board. I think we're beating LSU, and we're going to beat either Ole Miss or Missouri.
I wouldn't be surprised. Look, I want, if there's anything I took from this game, one, I lost a lot of money in this game. Two, Taylon Green looked really good.
If he throws like that,
really good.
That's what we were talking about, the inconsistency of him.
Version of him.
Because you saw a little bit of it against Oklahoma State. It's like maybe in these biggest games, like Taylon Green really shows up. I don't know how he didn't break his leg in half on that one hit. It looked like his leg was backwards. But if he's throwing like that,
that was a dirty hit.
I didn't think it was dirty. I thought the one in the Arizona game or the Kansas game.
That was a dirty hit. I can sit here and say that. Yeah, he dove his knee.
I don't think that was a dirty.
Do I blame him? No. You're trying to win a football game.
To the point on Taylor Green, Tennessee busted several coverages in this game, but that's only one half of the equation. You still have to put the football in the right spot. They busted on mesh one time. Taylor Green puts the ball in the perfect spot. They busted on a rail. Linebacker, nobody got in the flat. He hits it for a big gain. So his ability to identify coverages and such is
the accuracy. He threw two wheels.
Too.
Yeah, he threw two wheel routes that were NFL throws.
Yeah,
and that's how you have to. If you want to beat this Tennessee team. Like, you didn't score a lot of points, I know that, but you have to make some NFL throws to beat this team. And the way he can run the ball, Taylor Green is slowly turning into a problem.
Without a doubt. I mean, Taylor Green was the more aggressive quarterback, especially when you look at what Heupel and Nico and them did offensively. But I'm sitting here looking at Arkansas. I was shocked the way the offensive line played. Mm-hmm. It's not like y'all were just gashing them over and over again, but that was shocking.
If you had told me that the offensive line would play better against Tennessee than they did UAB or Oklahoma State, I would have called you crazy.
Well, that's why I
keep getting better week to week. They are growing. They're coming together. It's just beautiful. I'm so proud of all of them. It was so good to see Sam Pittman smile after the game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it just felt so good. And Travis Williams, he's got to get all the love.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up.
The plan was amazing.
Yeah.
He had that defense. They absolutely play with their hair on fire. I mean,
they do.
Give Travis Williams all the money and name him head coach in waiting right now.
I think you should give T. Will a lot of credit, but I do think people, including myself, gas Nico up way too much.
Well,
way too much.
Yeah, and I'm going to get to that. We're going to continue to talk about that as the week goes because they got to play Florida, and it's it's a very interesting time and with both of those programs. But back to the Arkansas point. You know, this is what we talk about, how hard it is to, and why I think that Oregon's going to put their best foot forward up front. Look at the way the offensive line for Arkansas played against Texas A&M, and look at the way they played against Tennessee. Now, both are quality front sevens. I'm not saying, with Tennessee and Texas A&M, but it's just worlds different. It's amazing, getting guys up to play in those big games. Sometimes that's why it's harder to get them up to play against UAB, right?
One more comment on that, just from a scheduling standpoint here, Matthew, is Arkansas is going to have a bye week this week before they play LSU at home, who's going to be coming off a game against Ole Miss. That's as interesting as you can possibly make.
That is a winnable football game.
Sam Pittman hit the coordinator lottery.
Yeah.
He hit the coordinator lottery.
Well, I know. I didn't give y'all any chance, Matthew. A heck of a win, man.
Yeah,
it was great seeing you Saturday.
Y'all, we talked before that game, and I wouldn't give us a chance. I was like, yep, it looks like it's over. It looks like you guys are right, but here we are, primed for a great end to the season.
What would it take to fix that heart? Yeah. Who do you have to beat?
Oh, man, if we beat – let's beat Texas again.
Yeah. All right. Well,
appreciate it, Matthew. Thanks for coming to the tailgate Saturday.
One last thing before I go. I want to say how amazing it was to meet you guys. Everyone wondering at home, these guys are just like they are in person as they are in the show. They are as real as it gets. This is the best show on earth. I love all you guys so much.
Hey, appreciate you, buddy.
Love you,
man.
Great to
appreciate that. Thanks so much. All right, let's go to Austin in Alabama. Austin, what's going on?
What's going on, guys?
What up?
I'm ready to fly all the way to Oregon and watch the Ducks beat the Buckeyes.
Dude, listen, I feel like I'm going to pick y'all. I haven't officially made that decision yet, but, how are we feeling? What's the mojo? Austin, I know you're in Alabama and you're an Oregon fan, which is basically your Owen Wilson trying to find that beeping chair. You're not in rush.
It'd be a lot different if y'all beat Auburn in the national championship. If anything, you're accepted.
Oh, yeah. No, we won that game. Dyer wasn't down. But, Austin, outside of that, what's the vibe at Oregon right now? How's everybody feeling?
I think they're feeling good about their chances, to be honest.
How are you feeling?
I feel like we got a chance to win. I feel like...
Well, here's the thing, though. There's a chance that I'm going to walk outside and meet a giraffe that speaks Japanese. But, what do you think's going to happen?
Peng is here today.
I forgot. Yes.
What I really think...
He's at Florida.
What I really think is going to happen is we're going to see a deja vu moment from last year with Oklahoma versus Texas when Dale Gabriel led them down the field to take the winning drive. I think it's going to be a really close game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout either way. I think it's going to be a late fourth-quarter drive. And I think Oregon, I trust Dale Gabriel more than Will Howard to make that late quarter drive.
Give me a score. Give me a score.
27-24 Oregon.
Okay.
So he'd go under 2.
All right. Yeah. I like the under 2.
Austin, it's going to be a good one, man. Call in next week, all right?
Yeah, let us know.
I will.
All right, let's go to Matthew in Atlanta. Matthew, talk to us.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
What's up, Matthew?
Hey, so I called in a few weeks ago asking if, maybe Freeze, needs to bear more of the blame when it comes to this Auburn situation. And Blaine, you talk a lot about how, there's this sickness in Auburn, and it's just pervasive throughout the program. And I heard Hugh say some things today on the press conference he did, which is that, hey, what do you want me to do? We don't have multiple top 10 classes, so what am I supposed to do? And I feel like he's the one perpetuating it, this sickness. And I wish that there was more of a fight to win with the team you have.
Yeah, it's the Final Destination sickness. It's the Titanic sickness. That's what it is. Like every game, no matter how much you're up, you can see the iceberg coming. We don't, we're at the fair. Oh no, the ride, we're gonna have to shut it down. Everybody get off. Why is everybody screaming and Dennis Quaid just showed up? There's a lot of problems, and it's the truth. As an Auburn fan,
like this is like a genius.
Like as an Auburn fan, even like when you're up in that Oklahoma game, right? What were you waiting on? Us to blow it. It's not only the football team, it's the players, it's the staff. Hell, it's even the fans. And I don't want to hear we haven't had top 10 class. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear anything about Peyton Thorne. It's his fault. No, this is Hugh Freeze's fault. Okay, do I think Auburn's going to be better and be fine from a recruiting standpoint? Yeah, but you didn't go get a guy out of the portal. We knew who Peyton Thorne was, and you asked Hank Brown, who's 13 years old and not going to be the future to Auburn, to go fix it. Well, then we're in trouble. So is there a sickness at Auburn right now? For sure. And the thing about it is we've been to the mountaintop. We've sippeth from the cuppeth, and that year we were the team in late games to make the play.
That was the only year I think ever watching Auburn play where I was like, we're going to win. Like, we're going to find a way to win because Cam Newton.
And I don't know how to – and the thing about it is, like, I'm not the guy from House, all right? I'm not walking around with a cane, limping around fixing it. I don't know how to fix it. I don't know how you fix that sickness.
You got to get the young leadership's got to turn into the young leadership has to show that you can win a big game in a big moment. And then they become the leaders of the team, and that starts becoming like the older guys that Auburn has now. Nobody's won anything.
And the talent gap,
nobody's won anything,
man. The thing about it, that's the crazy thing. The talent gaps. Auburn has good players. Okay, I just watched Vanderbilt beat Alabama. Okay, it's doable, right? There's something we can't figure out how to pay the toll to get across the bridge.
Well, I just hope he has enough time left because he keeps talking about, well, we're just going to get some more classes in. I'm going to get my guys in. But, guys, if he doesn't start winning soon, he's not going to be here in 14 months.
Yeah,
so,
that's the...
I want him to win. I'm pro him to win.
Yeah.
I want him to be good. But, it's just frustrating.
It's at some point proof of concept has to be shown on the field. And I think next year it's obviously... and the worse they do this year, the better they're going to have to do, the next year. So we'll see.
Great call, man. Appreciate it,
Matthew. All right, let's go to Micah in Mississippi. Micah, talk to us.
What's up, guys? Can you hear me?
Yeah, Mike, what's up?
Yeah, what's up, guys? So, you got all these one-loss teams, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, LSU, Missouri, Ole Miss, A&M, and Oklahoma. What are the chances that, somebody's going to drop another game? And what are the chances a 10-2 SEC team gets in over a group of 5, 11-1?
Well, I mean, are you now? And a group of 5 team is automatically going to make the playoffs, so that it's impossible for them to be left out. So, are you saying even with the scenario of the top group of 5 team getting in, another group of 5 team that would be 11-1 to get in? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, or you have, a Big 12 or an ACC team with one loss. And, what are the odds that you get a 10-2 team over those guys?
I don't think the odds are great for the group of 5 team. I don't think, the group of 5 team would have to be undefeated. I don't think they could be 11-1 for them to take 2 group of 5 teams. And I think they would still, in that case, take a 10-2 Alabama over an undefeated group of 5 team for that last spot. I think the question may be better phrased: would they take a 9-3 team out of the SEC or Big Ten for that last spot if Notre Dame doesn't make it over an 11-1 Group of 5 team, because I think that would still be an possibility.
I think a great question to be is, why are we letting a Group of 5 team in the playoffs?
Say it. Say your part.
I think
say your
that
part,
would be the
because
question.
I don't hate what he's
look, who let you in? Like, who do you know here? Like, how did you, I don't think a Group of 5 team should be in the playoff. I think it's going to show in the playoff because they're going to get absolutely.
Unless they go undefeated.
You got to be undefeated and play somebody with a pulse. You better play some that you can show and be like, hey, we beat these guys, so we can at least play. Like, if we just let guys in because they just beat a bunch of scrubs, and that's fine. You're going to see it in the first round of the playoff.
I want to draw a line here, though. Are you saying you don't think any Group of 5 team should be allowed in?
Well,
or are you saying the Group of 5 should be allowed in, but they shouldn't get an automatic?
They shouldn't get an automatic bid. You got to prove it to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Meanwhile, we could have a Group of 5 playoff and watch all these great teams play each other at the end of the year, but we don't want that.
No.
Because somehow that's seen as like a lesser trophy.
Damn your rationale, Dave.
That's the 4A trophy in high school rather than the 5A.
How dare you?
Great call, man.
Anyway, appreciate it, Micah. All right, let's go to Tim in California. Tim, what's on your mind this Monday?
Hey, boys.
What's up, Timmy?
Being a West Coast guy, seeing a lot of the West Coast college football teams looking really good lately. Oregon up there. I don't know if you guys watched any of the game day at Cal this year.
This
week. I live about 20 minutes east of there.
Nice.
Going crazy. So my question to you guys is, when do we get you guys out to do a live broadcast on the West Coast?
Look, you don't have to tempt me with a good time. We were out there for the Sweet 16 and during the NCAA basketball tournament. I tell you what, speaking of West Coast, though, USC, man, that was
not. I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know. Maybe Ohio State or Michigan are playing USC next year.
Well, hell, I mean, look at Washington.
I thought the game day atmosphere at Cal was phenomenal.
I thought it was awesome.
I thought the signs at Cal were hilarious, and I think Cal's a pretty damn good football team.
Let me ask you this:
they really, and those uniforms were
the linebacker Cal has.
The white dude,
like Luviava or something. He had 13 tackles in the first half.
No, like
13 they got in the first half.
Wow! All right, let me ask you guys this based off this last weekend. Tim, you jump in on this too. Because I remember these Stanford teams with Jim Harbaugh and early David Shaw that were winning in 12 games. How is Cal in such a better place right now than Stanford is? That atmosphere at Cal this weekend, combined with the fact they have a good football team, that atmosphere, I know they're hosting game day and all that, that was elite. Meanwhile, they juxtaposed it showing Stanford Stadium playing at home. Kickoff's about to happen. Hardly anyone is in the stands. Yeah. How does that happen?
Well, I'll tell you this. Stanford doesn't do any NIL. They refuse that. You get nothing if you go there. You also have to have your GPA of, I think, like 3.8 to play any athletic sports. So they're kind of hamstringing.
Wait.
You have to maintain a 3.8?
You got to maintain a 3.8?
Or you have to come in from high school with a 3.8?
I think you have to come in, and I think you probably have to maintain as well.
I was going to say, you're never going to win.
They don't care about sports. Yeah.
Yeah,
they're just that.
Well, when did Stanford stop caring about football?
I know, dude. I remember like Toby Gerhardt and Stanford. He said Andrew
Christian
Luck.
McCaffrey.
Christian McCaffrey.
McCaffrey.
That's crazy. So, you want to talk about?
If you guys do come out to West Coast, I'll throw in a free round at Pebble Beach for you.
All right. We're going to get
tomorrow.
You just book the tickets.
Yeah. So what's your tomorrow look like?
I'll see you at 7.
Hey, great call.
Appreciate it, Tim.
Appreciate it, man.
Hey, thanks so much, man. All right, let's go to Dylan in Birmingham. Dylan, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Love the show.
Appreciate it, man.
I think this talk about Alabama even making the playoff is ridiculous because this defense is bad. The first 2 quarters against Georgia, I think, was a little bit different situation. They kind of walked into a buzzsaw. Maybe Georgia was in their own head a little bit. But this defense is bad. And the culture at Bama right now, I mean, just the body language from the Bama players, especially the defense. And then also, Bama trailed the entire game. But every time they score, they're going to do a stupid little booty dance in the end zone. And then, of course, the whole Malachi Moore thing, to me, this is the crumbling of the empire that a lot of people have been waiting on for a long time.
Yeah. Again, I would obviously you got to give credit to Vanderbilt, and this isn't, the normal Vanderbilt team that we see from a personnel standpoint and from a, just clutch standpoint. That was crazy. But here's what I would say. I would say I still think Bama has a chance to make the playoff. How good can this Bama defense be is relative to how electric Jalen Milroe can be. Because the more you start looking at Bama, they just start looking like a better Colorado. Up front, if we're gonna be honest, you got Shadur and Travis Hunter at wide receiver, and then you got Jalen Milroe and Ryan Williams at wide receiver, and Bama's starting to look worse and worse up front defensively. Like,
you can say what you want, but Bama was built on defense.
Yeah,
they were built on defense. And I'll say this: I saw some people like these aren't Kalen DeBoer's guys and all this.
That excuse
if
sucks.
You can't win with Saban's guys, then it's going to be a long year. Well, one thing the Alabama fans that I'm worried about is, look, you go look in the mirror and Kellen DeBoer is slowly turning into Lincoln Riley. And you don't need that to happen. You need to be built. If you want to win championships, you build that on defense.
Well, it's to me, David, too, like when you look at so my wife, is third trimester, watching Alabama play Vanderbilt. She's been an Alabama fan, just really seen them do nothing but good and win. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing how the fan views what's going on. When it was going, at first, Bama scored, or Vanderbilt scored, something happened, Bama made a play, and Bama was celebrating. She's like, we never used to celebrate like that under Nick Saban, or get up and kind of act like that. And she kept mentioning it throughout the game. And literally after they lost, that's the first thing she said to me. She's like, that was almost weird. Like, I didn't feel like I was watching Alabama. Not that, you don't want to be a curmudgeon, they can celebrate, but you can just tell the fear, I think.
Yeah, Alabama shouldn't have lost to Vanderbilt. It's an embarrassing loss. It's going to be talked about for a long time, but I think we can all agree that this Vanderbilt team is better than a lot of people gave them credit for, and Diego Pavia is a gamer. He went into Auburn and beat them last year.
Yeah,
and so for anyone...
that's not going to make any Alabama fan not be pissed at Kalen DeBoer that gave
Well, that's all. That's fine. They have, like we talked about, plenty of these teams at the top have imperfections they have to clear up. But let's just all be realistic here before we start overreacting. Alabama's about to play South Carolina in Tuscaloosa.
They'll kill them.
South Carolina looked terrible last week. Then they're going to play Tennessee in Knoxville. That game was scary a week ago. Tennessee got shut out in the first half against Arkansas. Then they're going to play Missouri. Missouri just got beat to sleep by Texas A&M, and that game's in Tuscaloosa. Then they get a bye week before they go into LSU. Then they play Mercer, Oklahoma, and Auburn. I mean, who's better than them on the rest of the schedule?
Well, I just don't think
I
don't think we can walk into any Alabama game and just pencil them off as a win.
Well, and that's not what I asked. I said who's better than
that defense.
I didn't say pencil them in as a win. I'm saying who's legitimately better than them.
I will say this man Jalen Milroe's coming.
Fear Bama now.
Like, I'm telling you that I'm just saying this man Jalen Milroe is about to come back twice as hard. Like, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing, and I feel like I'm telling you, I think this man's really about to go off.
This is a good Vanderbilt team, I'll give you that, especially for Vanderbilt standards, but they also lost to Georgia State a few weeks ago. So Bama's in trouble. I'm just saying, hey, appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Great call.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair point, too. All right, let's go to Tyler in Florida. Tyler, what's going on?
Fellas, Jake, do you have any time that you can maybe be like a consultant down at the University of Miami to at least tell them to stop running freaking man? They are killing me.
Bro, we've been saying this like 4 weeks, and I know Coach Guidry knows that. So it's one of two things, and I think it's really one of one thing. Either, one, Coach Guidry will run nothing but man regardless. I don't think it's that. Or two, he don't trust y'all's ass in zone coverage, buddy. He's running a cat. We used to call it a cat coverage. He used to call it a cat coverage. You got that cat, you got that cat, and you got that cat. Something's up. Not that they've just run purely man, but it's like what they want to do. It's like what they want to do, and they can't do it, but they keep trying to do it. It's like, look, I love you, but that swimsuit's too small. No matter how much you suck in, the minute you breathe out, I'm going to see it.
I just don't think there's a defense right now, like Miami's defense. They're probably the worst in the country at giving up big plays. Like, you go back and watch that Cal game, they gave up 3 big plays in a row. And the thing that I would worry about if I'm a Miami fan, we're not getting better on defense. If anything, we're getting progressively worse. And I know Cam Ward and this offense are going to score points, but you have snuck. I don't know how you've won the last 2 games. Trust me, I turned one as a late game last week and started at 10. I turned it off at halftime think it was 28-10.
I thought about it. Yeah, 21-10
Yeah.
at halftime. Yeah. No, well, another thing that I'm noticing, too, that I did not expect, I expected the back end. I didn't expect it to be this bad, but I did expect it to be a drop-off. But all of a sudden, we can't get pressure.
Yeah.
No.
And when we do get there, we can't bring him down.
Yeah.
We can't tackle all of a sudden. It's just like, I don't know if the front is like, we got to do it, so they're pressing.
Y'all look like diet LSU to me.
Yeah, if
from
there's
last
anything,
year.
like, if there's
me and a student of mine were talking about that today. We're like, last year's LSU, we can beat anybody with our offense, but lose to anybody with our defense.
And I don't think y'all are as good on offense as they were.
No.
at LSU. I think it's just like y'all aren't as bad on defense as they are. That's why it's like somewhere just in the middle. Steady.
It's I don't understand it. Like I said, the front, all of a sudden now is just we can't get pressure and we can't tackle, and I'm just baffled.
Still undefeated, though.
I know it's 6-0. I know I sound like a real first world problems here, 6-0, and I'm complaining, but
no, it's a real thing, though.
I'm looking. I don't know. It's making me nervous. So
it's gonna cost you sooner or later. It's gonna cost you.
Yeah, it's gonna. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Appreciate the call, man. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Tyler.
Yep.
All right. Thanks for the call-ins today, guys. Anyone else on the line, please call in tomorrow.
All right, let's get to bets tonight. We still have football. Everybody get excited and talk about each other in the nicest way possible. Here's what I got tonight, David. I've got the Chiefs Saints over 43.
I like that.
All right, I know some people are leaning under. I think the Saints are going to actually score first, and I think Shaheed. I got him as an anytime touchdown at plus 215, but I really like him as a first touchdown scorer as well. So give me the Saints Chiefs over 43. My other bet, give me Shaheed anytime touchdown at plus 250.
What are his first touchdown odds? Do you know?
It's like plus 900.
I like both those bets so much that I am going to bet buds with you on the over 43 minus 110. And then go ahead and give me the Saints to keep this one close, plus 5.5. Chiefs probably still win, but I'm going to take the Saints to cover minus 112.
All right, fellas, I like it. Bring my bets up here. I'm going to go with the little prop bets today. Give me Patrick Mahomes over 232 yards passing. As good as the Saints, if they're good, they're stopping the run. Their pass defense is not great. And look, with Rashee Rice being out, somebody has to pick up the slack, and I think that will be Travis Kelce. Give me the over on his yards at 58.5.
He's the problem. It's him. Let's go to A's. Tigers money line minus 125, and the Yankees on the money line minus 155.
I love it. Ace money.
We got some MLB
big
playoffs.
dog.
Going to update y'all on that tomorrow.
And Tigers Cleveland 0-0 right now, even though Cleveland took that game 1. So game 2 0-0. I'm not sure what inning it is. And then Yankees Royals tonight at 6:30.
Let's go, baby. Let's go, Yanks. All right, I'm going to have to get back to the donations from Sunday as well to today. We don't leave any donation unanswered. Let's go to a $20 donation from Cuse. Appreciate it, Cuse. ACC is confusing. Miami nearly lost to Cal. FSU's only win was to Cal. UNC nearly out of QBs. Pitt and Virginia are good. Duke was the most unlikely 5-0 team. SMU better with their backup QB. And a certain first-year head coach is 4-1.
Look, I don't want to jinx anything. If this ends up working out, y'all may just want to just block me on that app.
9-3. I had him 9-3. I think it's.
Oh, would you have him?
9-3.
Okay.
Is that good enough? No?
No, I just couldn't remember.
$5 donation from BD. Appreciate it, man. Do the Tennessee coaches not teach their QBs to throw to the end zone with no time left? That was unacceptable.
Yeah, the awareness level from Nico was non-existent.
$10 donation from The Meme. He says, disappointing our reaction to the loss. Malachi Moore kicking the ball while Vandy kneels it down is mentally unstable. Not a champion play. Had fun meeting y'all and the rest of the Booster
Same here.
Club. Let's go to $5 donation from Anthony. Thank you, Anthony. As an Auburn fan, it sucks to see everybody having fun but us.
Yeah, it's just you're sick of getting the rawhide wallet at Christmas.
Let's go to $5 donation
Hall cans.
From RG. What's up, man? Did West Virginia overperform or did Oklahoma State underperform? Either way, great win for the Mountaineers.
Yeah, shout out to Neil Brown. They always seem to find a way to turn it around right at the halfway mark. Oklahoma State, most disappointing team in the country.
3 straight losses right now.
Yeah, but I think most disappointing team in the country.
$5 donation from Nick Does Futures. David, did you say Oregon are frauds if they lose to Ohio State? Can make an argument winners number 1 and losers number 2 or number 3. especially how bad UGA and Bama's defense has looked.
No, that's not what I said. What I said is if you told me one of these teams are fraudulent and asked me to pick which one, I'd say there's a better chance that Oregon is. I think Oregon could play in a way where they lose this game, and I'm actually more impressed with them, right? Again, it's not about winning or losing so much right now with an expanded playoff and with a chance to still get in the conference championship. It's how are you playing? And I just haven't been impressed with Oregon so far. Flip side of that is the Buckeyes have kind of been unimpressive in some.
Somebody's got to impress, or they're both just being impressive. Maybe they are both not what we thought they would be preseason, and
which makes it an even game.
There you go. So.
All right, let's go to a $10 donation from the Duck. He says, deja vu. Dylan Gabriel leads the Ducks to the victory over Ohio State like he did with Oklahoma over Texas last year during this week. Please believe me, fellas.
God, if he does. Remember, I picked Oregon to beat Ohio State in this game and then lose to Ohio State in the Big Ten Championship.
I did the same, but I'm switching my pick this week.
$10 donation. I'm pretty sure I had Ohio State win the national championship. How about that? It looks a little better now. $10 donation from LB. Texas Tech is currently 3-0 in conference play and sole possession of first place. Stop the count. Big 12 champs incoming. And also, Blaine, you left your hat. Damn it.
Figure it out.
Let's go. My bad. $2 donation from Miller. Appreciate it, Miller. Ohio State and Texas are the field. Who you got?
God, I mean, I would have to take the field. This year, I'd have to take the field. Because I don't think, look, and again, that may end up being right. You know, we could eventually see one team be like, all right, these are the alphas. Everybody else is chasing them. I'm just not seeing it yet. But again, to your point at the beginning of the show, each week we find out more and more and more. And these next couple of weeks, we're going to find out pretty much the climax of the story.
Ask us again if Quinn Ewers comes back healthy and can stay healthy.
True.
All right, let's go to a $5 donation from Ant. Appreciate it, Ant. He says, everyone in the SEC is just having a ball while Auburn and Mississippi State sit in the corner. I'm sitting in the sand eating boogers by myself. I want to win too.
Steven Glansberg, why are we sitting over there eating pudding, talking about anime? Like, I want to go hang out with girls and, like, do cool stuff.
Don't throw anime into this. $5 donation from the chat. What's up, man? I want to give you boys your flowers for this weekend. Cone selfie and all you guys listen to volleyball stories made my kids' weekend and mine. Appreciate
Let's
it. $5 donation from Blake Broneman. God, I probably said that wrong. A&M fan here. A lot of games in between now and then. But could we get a Texas A&M SEC championship? Texas versus Texas A&M.
You could, anything is possible. It's a Kevin Garnett situation. Like I said yesterday, the ball's on Mike Elko to start Connor Wegman in that game. I'm surprised his spine works.
I still can't believe
that's how big they are, I think. I mean, how is your hand not forced to start the other kid?
Yeah. That's why I said, because you're a leader amongst men, a guy who knows his ball club so well and has the conviction to say, no, I know what I'm seeing at practice. I know what gives us the best chance to win. I'm going to do this. Do you know how many other coaches would have started the other kid and just said, hey, at least I'm covered. The other kid's undefeated. I'm covered.
He's in his first big year at a humongous program. Yeah. And I'm telling you, Mike Elko.
This wheelbarrow moment.
But here's the question.
It's a wheelbarrow moment. Why am I wheeling him around?
What I wanted to ask you guys yesterday, which I forgot, was what happens now if Connor Wegman goes into a game and struggles, though?
You got a great backup to replace him.
You got an answer.
Then I'm talking about, but stays healthy though, not gets injured. You're saying he would just get pulled.
Well, I think if he's, I think you feel better about a backup, but I think it's two different ones.
He was injured though, wasn't he?
Is it he looks bad because he's not trusting that leg and he's all over the place in the pocket like he was against Notre Dame, or is he just not throwing the ball well or is he not seeing it out in front?
Yeah.
But I think either way, you've given yourself a chance.
$2 donation from Ty. Appreciate it, Ty. It says college football is white girl wasted. And I love it.
Yeah, it is. It really, really is.
$5 donation from the Rocky Mountain.
An OnlyFans account for my mind.
Rocky Mountain Buckeye. Jake, if Oregon loses to Ohio State by 2 or more touchdowns, I need to hear you say Joel from Utah was right and I was wrong, and Oregon's the fat kid at recess.
If they lose by 2 or more touchdowns, if they lose by 2 or more touchdowns, either one of two things really happened. Oregon is super fraudulent or Ohio State is Superman.
$2 donation from Dave V. Can you give me one reason to use DJU over Brock? I can't.
No.
Yeah, they're going to make that
driver. I don't know. Like Brock Glenn, it should be his team. It should be his team to the point where, and especially coming from people who try to tell you all offseason, all the Florida State fans, but then they're like, no, Mike Norvell, look, he turned Pinocchio into a real boy. Now look what he can do with DJU. No, it needs. How did y'all have this? Like, after the first couple starts by DJU. And not throw this cat.
DJU's is like the Fast and Furious movies. Like, it's the same thing. every single time.
It's neither.
Why are you buying a ticket?
Furious.
Why are you buying a ticket to expect something new?
No, it's more like the Curious Case of Benjamin Button. It's like you just get younger and worse as you get older.
Let's go to a $5 donation from Django. What's up? Did y'all see the Aggies? Did y'all see the Aggies show Cook on the scoreboard after back-to-back false starts about his comments about crowd noises? The 12th man.
That's hilarious.
Strikes.
Dude, that was belt to ass.
Walked him.
Like that from the jump. And then you come out in the second half, 75-yarder, inside zone. Here, friend, or split zone, I can't remember.
Talk about fraudulent, man.
Dude. Because they made Missouri look like it was, the
Missouri of old.
Yeah, true.
$2 donation from David. He says, Milton can go to hell.
All right.
Is that Joe Milton? I don't know. $5 donation from Ryan. What's up, Ryan? Was in Philly last night for the NLDS game. What they say about CBP being the best playoff atmosphere is 100% true. It was effing nuts in there, fellas.
Nice. Have fun.
All right, guys. Really appreciate the donations today. If you donate and I didn't get to it, I'm about to get to it.
Okay.
We do this every day.
Sam,
come to my house. It's like, Christina.
No, you're like, I need you finishing through the line here.
I always finish through the line, Coach. Just in Alabama. All right. Is there an elite team in college football? Yes.
Like one? Like a single?
David, just one.
Is there one?
What do you think?
Oh, they probably said no. I don't know. No, 60%.
I'm going to say no, 59%.
No, 55%.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, 45%.
All right. We appreciate you guys. Got a great show for you tomorrow. We got to get, there's so many great games this weekend. We're going to keep getting to the chat, getting to the calls, and breaking it down. Way better than that one chick did the Olympics, but she cheated to get there. Anyway, shout out to Responsible Man, Shopify, Z-Biotics. Like the chances of that being the best breakdancer we had, we're going. Gone. That's right.